Hello there, this is a video accompanying the Joomla tutorial series developing an MVC component, and in this step we're looking at adding ordering. Ordering basically enables us in the admin side of things to click on these little three dots here and change the order of elements. And I've got here in the front end, this is our messages menu item where we're displaying the messages within a certain category, and I've clicked on here formal category and it's showing these messages and it's ordering them based on this ordering field which we've put into the database in this step. So if say I think that the night should be up here, I can go into the admin and I'm selecting this category here, the formal NGB ones, and I click on night and shift it up to here and drop it, and then if I do a refresh here we should see that night has moved up under evening. So that's all working okay. The functionality is fairly straightforward and the code here is fairly straightforward. Apart from, I suppose, understanding just why we've got this stuff which is in the layout file. So in this video I want to concentrate a little bit on what Joomla is doing underneath, and I guess the main reason for that is if you're developing your own and you run into difficulties, actually having an understanding of what's happening under the covers can help you a lot whenever you're debugging. So as it says here, Joomla uses the jQuery widget sortable, and that allows you to sort various things in a list and that sort of stuff, which is similar to what we've got here in Joomla. And it's also got an API, and if I click on the examples down here you can see this sort of thing, which is a simple example. Basically we're calling a function sortable on an element which is defined by this ID here, sortable, and that is what enables us to do the sorting, basically like that. And there's a whole lot of options that you can pass to the sortable function there, which we're going to be looking at in the Joomla case here. Now if we look at the code, Joomla code is really in this sortable lists.js, and if you're wondering where that is, I'll just highlight that there. And if we go down a little bit here, we can see the same thing. Here is where the Joomla code calls sortable, the jQuery sortable on an element. And the element table wrapper is passed in here. And this kind of set of parameters here is really what is reflecting in our code. This here. Right. So hello world list is the ID which is identifying the element, HTML element, inside which sorting is possible. So comparison to this example, it's this here. So if we look down our code, we can see we're setting it against the table. So we're basically saying that sorting will go on within this table, which is obviously within this table here. And if you look at now some of the parameters that we're passing as options, axis Y, and if we go down here you can see a definition of all the parameters. Axis just means that the items are dragged vertically. Cursor move just means the form of the cursor, which you get whenever you drag the row. defines the cursor that is being shown while sorting. Handle is where we've defined handle. Handle really defines the element that you kind of press down on or move the mouse down on so that you can actually move the row. So it's this element here. So if we look at the code, we're defining the element as ops.sortable handler. Sortable handle is something which has a CSS class of sortable handler, and that's why we've defined in our code down here, this is the element which has got sortable handler, and we add on things like inactive if we're not setting it active. But this is basically the little icon menu which shows the 3 dots. That's our sortable handler. Items, if we go back to here, handler restricts sort start click to the specified element. Items specifies which items inside the element should be sortable. Now, if we go here, I'm going to change this a little, and I'm going to just search for good. Oops, sorry. We'll get there yet. Here we are. So in this sequence here of Hello World records, 4 of these have got the category formal and 1 hasn't. So whenever we click on this and move, you can see that the one with messages, category message, is actually grayed out, so we can't actually shift it, change its order. We can just change the order of the other ones. So defining the set of elements which are orderable is really this option here, and we set sortable class name, and we set the sortable class name is dndlist sortable, and we actually remove it from everything, then apply it to everything again. So at the start, everything has got dndlist sortable. So I've got inspector here, and if we go down to here, for example, oops, I'll just close all these TRs. You can see down here that all of the TRs, all of the table rows, have got dndlist sortable, basically saying that they can sort by any of those. But if you keep your eye on number 41, ID 41, sorry, ID 37, if you keep your eye on that as I shift this, and we go down to it, you'll see that these ones here have got dndlist sortable and dndlist sortable, but this one doesn't. It's got ID 37, and we'll see why that's happening in just a little moment. But although it starts off as everything has got this sortable class name, once we start moving, some of the ones are changed so that they're not sortable. Placeholder is really just defining the whenever we have a sort here and we move something, there's a little white space there, and it's just defining CSS class of the white space. You see it's just a kind of like an empty table row there. I'll leave this back. And then this little helper function, and I've got I'll have to try and find this helper. Oh, I'm not going to find it that way. Here it is. Okay, so in this example that we've got here in our Joomla code, the helper is set to a function. And the function says a function that will return a DOM element to use while dragging. And it's past the event and the element being sorted. So it basically gets past this element here, which is the table row. And in it, what it does, it adds this class DND list dragged row to all its children, all the TD elements, which basically results in this being set to a green color. It's really just changing the color of the row. So those are the options that are passed to this sortable function. And as well as that, there are a couple of events that are triggered, and those are used by Joomla as well. The first is the start event. So the start event is triggered whenever you click on something here and you start to move it. So what are we doing here? Well, we're getting this sortable group, and we're looking for the row, and we're looking for the ordering group attribute in that row, and the ordering group attribute is sortable group ID. And if we go back to our code, what we're setting on the row here is this sortable group ID. So basically, whenever it's running this code here, it's trying to find out what is the value of this attribute here. And in our code, we have set this to the cat ID, the category ID. And this is basically because we want to do sorting just within a category ID. So it's finding the sortable group ID, and then it's setting up the sortable range as all of those TRs which have the same sortable group ID as the one that we've started to move. And then what we're doing is disabling other group sort. And if we go down there, what we're doing is we're setting we're removing the sortable class name, which is the DND list, from all of those TR elements where it's not equal to the sortable group ID. And we saw also this DND list group disabled class being applied to those elements as well. So this is the way that it sets the items that can be and cannot be included within the sorting once the start has moved. It's also used for moving things like menus which have levels, which we're not really concerned with here, but we'll look again at whenever we get to the next step. And the final event that we're going to look at is stop. So that whenever you stop dragging an element, this is fired. And you see some of the things that are happening here. It removes the class DND list dragged row, so it stops being green basically. Enable other group sort, so it resets the class there. basically undoing the disable other group sort. And then it does rearrange ordering values. And this function is really looking at changing the ordering values. And I've changed the code slightly just to output these ordering values here, so that whenever you move something like this and shift it up, you can see that these ordering values change. And that's basically the code behind here. And as far as I can see, whenever you move something up, for example, it will just give it the first order value and then shift all the other ones down by one. That's assuming that you're doing an ascending. If you're doing an ordering descending, it will work the other way. And then what it needs to do is really send that new order up to the server so that it can be stored in the database. So it's basically wanting to send these values up to the server in an AJAX call, but it also needs to send the IDs. So it needs to send these IDs that you can see over the right hand side up as well, so that the server knows which IDs, which records these ordering values refer to. So what it does is it clone mark checkboxes. Go down to look at that. What's that doing? Well, we have on the form for each row, we've got this name equals order element here. If we look back to our code, this is our element here. It's putting in an input type with a name equals order, and it's not displayed. It's just that I've changed the code here to actually display in this example. So it's changing all of those, setting them really to order TMP. So it's setting the attribute of the name to order TMP. So whereas before in our code the name was set to order, it's now going to be set to order TMP for all of the elements. Then it goes through the sortable range, and for each element in the sortable range, that's all the ones that have the same cat ID, it really clones the checkbox. So it clones our little checkboxes here. And it sets them all to checked and adds them to the form. And then for those rows which do have are within the sortable range, it sets the name equals order TMP back to name equals order. So we've got down to here. It removes the task field because we don't want it set, and then calls post. And what it's doing here is it's serializing the form, which is here, and sending that up in an AJAX call to this URL. And the save ordering URL is what is passed as a parameter there. And that's what we see here. So we're sending it up to this task, save order AJAX, which we would find in the Hello Worlds controller. We don't have that there, so it will be found in the controller that we inherit from. So if we put on our debug tools, and I'm just going to clear that. And I'm just going to move one of these up like that. Here's our AJAX call going up. I'm just looking at XHR here. It's going to our URL that we set. Hello worlds.save order AJAX is the task. And here's what it's sending up. So it's sending up our order values for the ones that have been set in here. Remember, there's 4 of them. And it's also, for each of those, it has actually cloned the CID and it is passing those up as well. Now remember that these 0, 1, 2 and 3 don't have any relationship with the order, with these records. This isn't 0, this isn't 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Really what's happening is that within our form we've got a number of checkboxes, and it's just gone through them and found which of those checkboxes has been checked and just include that checkbox in the post data together with the value of that checkbox. So this 0113 doesn't refer to the first record here, and in fact you can see it refers to this second row here with ID equals 113. As you can see, it's not without 1 or 2 little bugs there. Oops, I'll just go down there. You can see that 2 of the rows have the same record. Or 2 of the rows have the same order, I should say. And we can't fix that. Here's another one. Okay, so basically this is what is being sent to the server, and then when it gets to the server it's looking for that save order AJAX method within our Hello World's controller hierarchy, and it will find it in admin controller. So this is our admin controller, and here's our save order AJAX function. And basically it's getting the 2 things. It's getting the CID array and the order array, just doing a little bit of validation, and then calling the model save order, passing the CID array and the order array. And when we get to the admin model, then we find save order, which is basically for each of the primary keys. It's doing a table load, and then it's setting the ordering field to be the equivalent order element in the array, and then it's doing a table store. So it is basically taking the little numbers here from our ordering that are sent up in our parameters, and it's tying together those orders, the order numbers there, with the IDs that it gets from here. And you'll see a little order TMP there, which is 6, which basically refers to this one here, which is the goodbye world. Just to be aware that there are 1 or 2 little problems with the code. So for example, if I click on this and then send this and look again at the post, you can see that the CID array that has been sent up, it doesn't just include the ones that are affected by the ordering, these ones here, but it includes also ones that the admin has set here. So you basically get 5 CIDs and 4 orders, which really isn't going to work and does cause a little bit of a problem. Because if we do a refresh here on this one, we've got 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to do a refresh. And now we've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And it's basically because the original reorder that we did, the first element got tagged to this one, unfortunately. So just to be aware, there are 1 or 2 little bugs in there that you should be aware of. Obviously, you have got only a subset of the elements here, so it's really quite good practice if you're reordering within something. For that reason, always select the right category and then actually got all of the elements associated with that category, and the ordering is going to work as expected. Okay, so I think that was everything I was planning to say on the sortable list. Okay, once you've done the Ajax call, you just remove those cloned checkboxes, and you're back to the start again. So that is the main sort of thing I wanted to cover. The only other little thing was, I think it was reordering. Yeah. So this prepare table is kind of like a callback function, and what we are doing in this case is that we're putting the element, the new element, at the start. And we're using a function here, table reorder. And you can find that table reorder in our table code, which is just here. You can see where you can find it. And basically what it's doing is you've got a subquery here where you're querying the elements, and the result of this subquery, you're selecting a row number, and select row number seems to be equivalent to this SQL Server row number. And I don't think you actually get it in MySQL, but there is an implementation within Joomla which kind of mirrors this, which basically means when you do a select, you've got also a row number, which is this thing here. Now, it's going to be different from the row ID. It's just the row number within the select. And then whenever we get that, we set that row number as new ordering, and then in the outer query, as it were, we're doing an update, and we're just setting the ordering to be equal to that subquery.new ordering. So you're basically setting the ordering field to be equal to this row number here, and you're doing it across a passed in where clause. So in our particular example, we are reordering just where the category ID is the same as the one under consideration. So basically what happens is that all the other category IDs, or sorry, all the other records with the same category ID get set to 1, 2, 3, 4, how many there are, and the new one just gets set to 0 so that it appears at the start of the list. Okay, hopefully that's been intelligible, first of all, and instructive. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.